There is a product in your grocery store that people treat like a culinary crime. They look at it with suspicion. They use it as the example of what you should never eat. And yet, that same product has exactly 6 ingredients. 6. Your deli counter bologna has more than 12. Today, we're going inside the factory where luncheon meat is made. We're going to look at exactly what's in it, how it's preserved, and why the dirtiest reputation in the canned goods aisle may have nothing to do with what's actually on the label. When someone mentions luncheon meat, and we're talking specifically about Spam, the most recognized product in this category, the reaction is always the same. That's mystery meat. It's everything left over from the pig. I don't even know what's in it. And that's exactly what's strange about this, because Spam has had its ingredients printed on the can since 1937. Nothing is hidden. The manufacturer has always told you what's inside. The problem isn't what's in the can. The problem is the format of the can. But before we get there, you need to understand how it's actually made. In 1937, in Austin, Minnesota, Hormel Foods had a very specific problem: pork shoulder. It was a difficult cut to process. Nobody wanted it. And in the middle of the Great Depression, wasting meat was not an option. A Hormel employee named Julius Zilgit spent years solving a technical problem nobody had cracked: how to put meat into a sealed 12-ounce can and cook it inside that container without releasing so much water that the final product was more juice than meat. The answer he found was mixing the meat under vacuum before canning it. By removing the air during the mixing stage, the meat retained its moisture through cooking. Without that solution, there is no product. On July 5th, 1937, the first can rolled off the line. A brother of a Hormel vice president won $100 in a naming contest for suggesting the name Spam. Most likely it comes from spiced ham, though, oddly, the original product contained no ham at all. Hormel added it later because people assumed it was already there. By 1941, 40 million cans had been sold. During World War II, Hormel shipped 15 million cans per week to Allied forces. Eisenhower, Margaret Thatcher, and Nikita Khrushchev each publicly acknowledged the product. Here's the thing nobody tells you about how this is actually made. It starts with pork shoulder and ham. 2 cuts. Not lips, ears, or snouts. That's what Hormel's competitors used in the 1930s. Hormel refused. The shoulder is processed through a hydraulic press that literally squeezes the meat off the bone. The ham is cut away by hand. The 2 types of meat are sorted visually: fattier pieces in one basket, leaner pieces in another. Then they go into a grinder that turns both cuts into 8,000-pound batches. At that point, a metal detector runs through the entire batch. Every time, before any additional ingredient touches the meat. Then the whole batch goes into a vacuum mixer that chills the meat down to near freezing. That's where the other 5 ingredients go in: salt, water, potato starch, sugar, and sodium nitrite. The mixer is sealed, the air is pulled out, and everything runs for 20 minutes. Why the cold? Why the vacuum? Because without both of those conditions, the heat from cooking would rupture the cells and release too much liquid. Zilgit figured that out after years of testing in the 1930s. The mixture moves to the canning line. 12 ounces per can, vacuum sealed. Then the cans enter a 6-story hydrostatic cooker. In 2 hours, 66,000 cans travel up and down 11 chambers inside that structure. Heated, sterilized, washed, and cooled without ever opening the can. After cooling, the cans sit through a mandatory 10-day waiting period. Hormel pulls one out of every 1,000 cans and exposes it to 100 degrees Fahrenheit to check if it bulges, which would indicate improper cooking or contamination. Only after that do the labels go on. That's the process. Complete. No hidden steps. 6 ingredients. Let's go through each one. Pork with ham, pork shoulder. The cut with more muscle than fat, not byproducts. Salt, a natural preservative, same as in any cured meat you've ever eaten. Water, necessary for the vacuum mixing process. Potato starch, added in 2009 to improve the appearance of the cooked product. Before that, there were only 5 ingredients. Sugar, flavor balance. It's in almost every cured product you already eat without thinking about it. Sodium nitrite. This is the one that generates controversy. It's responsible for the pink color of luncheon meat. Without it, the meat would turn brown. And more importantly, without it, Clostridium botulinum survives at room temperature. Sodium nitrite prevents botulism. That's why it exists. And here's where it gets interesting. The ingredient that triggers the most concern in canned luncheon meat is sodium nitrite. But that same compound is in your deli counter bologna. It's in your salami. It's in your sliced ham. It's in your pastrami. It's in virtually every cured meat sold at that glass case where someone in gloves hands it to you wrapped in wax paper. Nitrates and nitrites are compounds found naturally in celery, leafy greens, and drinking water. Most of the nitrates the average adult consumes come from vegetables, not from processed meat. And there's something else. Products labeled nitrate-free or uncured at the deli counter frequently use celery juice or celery powder as a substitute. Celery is naturally high in nitrates. The chemical result is the same. The label says something different. The bologna at your deli counter, the one you consider more real than the can, in many cases is made from mechanically separated meat, emulsified until you can't tell what cut it came from, mixed with starches, binding agents, preservatives, and colorants. All of it ground to a level where the USDA does not require the label to specify exactly which parts of the animal were used. Spam tells you exactly which cut. Generic bologna often can't say the same. Same chemistry, different packaging, different story. Here's where the story flips. Canned luncheon meat is not more processed than what's sitting behind your deli counter. In many cases, it's less. What is different is the container. A silver metal can with a pull tab has spent decades functioning as a visual signal for low income or emergency food. The same contents in a craft paper wrapper with artisan typography sold at a charcuterie become something entirely different. The chemistry didn't change, the packaging changed, and with it, the perception. The reputation of canned luncheon meat was built mostly on its container and on the fact that it fed soldiers during a war, which in peacetime became synonymous with food of last resort. This isn't an argument to eat it every day. It's an argument to know exactly what you're judging when you judge it. Now you know. You know that Spam uses pork shoulder, a specific cut, not discarded byproducts. You know that cooking inside the sealed can was a technical innovation from the 1930s that took years to solve. You know that sodium nitrite is in your deli bologna, your sliced ham, your pastrami, and that nitrate-free products frequently contain them anyway, just from a different source. You know that the difference between canned luncheon meat and deli counter meat isn't necessarily in the ingredients, it's in the presentation. And that's more than most people who judge a can without reading the label will ever know. The question worth asking isn't whether luncheon meat is worse than what you buy at the deli. The question is, how many other things do you evaluate by the packaging instead of what's actually inside? That's the process.